Sweets.
Hi, Sweets.
Hi, how you doing? This is Love Jones Therapy, our 8th edition. And I want to welcome you, my friends and colleagues, to Love Jones Therapy. Love Jones Therapy is a show that I started 2 years ago to get everybody out, no matter where you're from or who you are, to come on and just share your experiences, your opinion, your views, without being chastised or criticized. Remember, they're just opinions and views, right? So we can't get mad at somebody for what they say. Okay? Say yes?
Yes.
We will not get mad at anybody for their opinions. Now, I want to introduce the crowd to the audience. To the panel. I'm gonna let them speak and tell you who they are, and they can give you a brief description of what they do, so that way you may have a voice as well. From left to right.
Hey everyone, how you doing? My name is AJ, or Jamie Clark. I'm an IT support specialist, and I've known Sweets for a long time. I've been around the community too, so I think that I bring a pretty unique experience and you could say knowledge base here today. Thanks.
Next.
Hi everyone, my name is Claudette, and along with the views and the opinions, I'm hoping that you're here because you want to make some changes in your life too, and hopefully some of the views and the opinions and the experiences that we share will impact some changes within yourselves.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Bassem. I come from a financial background, and I'm very thankful to be here for the second time. And I'm hoping to share with you some of my experiences in basically family situations when it comes to debt and finances and such, and a bit of a relationship. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Love Jones. My name is Kim Thomas. I'm actually a teacher. I work with the Peel District School Board, and I'm also a writer and a life coach and a motivational speaker. So I'm excited to see some new faces, and I've been working with Sweets for quite a few years on Love Jones, and I'm glad to be serving you today on your panel. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Louie. Once again, I'm here at Love Jones, another edition. I'm a career. I've been in and out of the community. I've been around the vast margins of companies, residential areas, and I've got an opportunity to meet with a lot of people over the years. So I'm bringing the experience that I've got from those people as well as my own to Love Jones here tonight.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle, and I'm a customer service operations analyst. And I've known Sweets since high school, so I've known him a long time, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Sweets.
John Boyd, a fitness trainer and a mentor for songwriters. Looking forward tonight to provide some insight. Thank you.
Here you have it, folks. Your panelists for the 8th edition of Love Jones Therapy when it comes to problems in the relationship. Parents.
So in my opinion, I know we're all going to have various opinions, but I'm pretty strong on this. I think first and foremost, which might seem obvious to a lot of you, the first person to talk to is God. Just because I'm a strong believer in that we should have a relationship with God and bring our cares and our problems to Him and look in the Word of God, because in the Word of God there's a lot of answers to our life problems. So I'm a huge advocate that should be a conversation that you have to seek God and pray about it. And the second thing, besides a person, I would say the next best thing really is to seek professional. You know, if you're having major problems in your relationship, it's not always a good thing to talk to a colleague. I think, that often happens, and I don't think that's a professional thing to do. And I think we've got to be careful about throwing our spouses, our partners under the bus.
Excuse me,
And,
if I may interject, who are the specialists that they should be seeking out?
A relationship counselor, a counselor in general, a therapist, right? Someone who specializes in therapy, right? Just because I think that we got to be careful when we are in a relationship and we're in a serious relationship that we take that covenant seriously and be careful what we say, because oftentimes our words manifest and other people will use it against our loved ones, right? So, you might tell a parent and then they use it down the road, or a friend, and then they say, but we got to be careful to honor our spouses and our partners. And part of honoring them is to not throw them under the bus, but to honor them and be careful what you say about them and your issues, because your issues can get out there. That's why I say seek a professional where it is confidence. And obviously, first and foremost, seek God.
Everything you said here, I think that's absolutely correct. But I also believe as well that who you should talk to is that person who is your partner. Once you've done maybe whatever one of these persons have said, a pastor, pray about it, somebody professional, talk to your partner. Keep it within your home, keep it within your relationship. But once it starts to spread amongst your friends start to give you interpretations of what they think, and it might not be what you need or what you have to, or what's good for you and your partner. Keep it with you and your partner. Once your emotions are calm, once your mind is clear, get together with your partner and say, listen, you know what, me and you have to talk. Let's sit down and talk calmly, reasonably, lay out what you have to lay out on the table, let him lay out what he has to lay out on the table, vice versa, and go from there and see where you can make things mend so that the two of you can grow, if that is possible, to go from that point.
I think a lot of times too, when you talk to your friends and you're talking to them about the same issues over and over and over again, your friends start to have a negative thoughts about the person that you're with. So sometimes they might start giving you negative advice that may not help you in your relationship. So it's best to try and hold back as much talking to your specific friends without talking to the person that you have the issues with first. And I mean, everyone wants to talk to their friends about their issues, right? But I think that if you continue to talk to your friends over and over about issues that you're having with that person, you start to get negative responses. So it's better to keep it, like we said, to try and speak to that person first and work it out with that person first before you take it to someone else to get advice.
If I could just say one thing on that topic too, it's important that you remember that there's two sides to every story and every picture. So a problem can actually be more of a challenge or a situation that you're looking for a solution. So just thinking of it that way, it's easier to communicate your situation to whoever you're going to confide to. So at least you're not negatively beating on them or bashing them on the head. You're genuinely concerned about them because you want the relationship to work out and you want things to be better.
We have to also be very careful with what you were saying when you talk to your friends, because sometimes we don't realize when you're so caught up in a situation with your emotions running high and on a high level, you actually paint a picture of your partner to your friends. So your friends now have a different interpretation based on your emotions that you painted to them, and then they start to look at your partner in a negative way, in a negative light, because they don't really know your partner on the level that you know your partner. But because your emotions are running high, you start spilling out all the negative toward about your partner and to your friends, and then the next thing you know, your friends are giving you negative feedback. So you got to be careful.
Sorry, Lou. Suppose they said begin with. Suppose they never liked your friend to begin with.
If they never
Right? Remember that the guy you're dating, man you're dating, woman you're dating to begin with. So they're just waiting for him to mess up, just so that. See, I knew he was no good to him. I knew it. Just to prove that point.
Well, that's why I'm saying keep it amongst the two of you. Whatever's going good, it's good. And it will reflect that light that's going on, that good, positive light, that positive energy. It will reflect and people will see it regardless of whether they want things to go good or go back to the two of you. But if it's negative, you got to keep that amongst the two of you. It's like a team. I look at it like a sports team. When there's positive impact or negative impact, it's internal. Don't bring it out to the media. Don't let the public see it. Don't let everybody see it to give you that negative energy, that negative feedback that can destroy what you're building. Because there could be children involved. There could be all kinds of things that are already you built on and have going on in your relationship. You want to keep that flourish and keep that building growing.
Preston. Hey babe, what are you doing tonight? You wanna go out and get something to eat? Now, where are we gonna go eat? Should there be a budget on where we go? Should there be a budget? Does it really matter? Does it really matter where we go? As long you get pressed with the budget, you don't do, no?
You know, you can allow your humorous side to come out. That's something very depressing. Something take it to McDonald's. I said humor. That's the impression, is it not? It's the impression. I know that's not what you want.
McDonald's? It's expensive.
I was just having a debate with someone about this. The person asked me, you know, if it's okay to take someone to McDonald's on the first date. And I said, hell no. Go for a walk. Go to eat at a coffee shop. There's things that you can do besides taking someone to McDonald's. Okay, I think that, you know, first impression is important, and if you're taking someone to McDonald's or Burger King, that happened to me once, and I wasn't impressed. I never spoke to the person again. It just, you know, it says a lot about, well, you, I mean, if you're on a budget, you can find other things to do. That's just my opinion.
So there's a difference between setting an expectation and misleading someone. So if you set your, you know, if you set your budget and you start going on this route of a fairy tale and you can't stay, things start to fall apart. So you have to be mindful and you have to know where your pocket is. Because if you start spend drift, and then the arguments start to happen because you're misleading with all the false, you're actually using your credit card, cash advance. A lot of things are going on foolishly because of love, because you find that it's dazzled her or him to impress. You start buying, you know, outfits that you wouldn't normally buy because you have to keep up with the invitations. You know, you have to really set your limits, because at the end of the day, when all that 3-month stage is over and the dust starts to settle, you're back at McDonald's and coupons and drive-throughs and things like that. Right? And then you say he's changed or she's changed. Right? So I mean, you know, I'm not saying to start at McDonald's at day one, but McDonald's is no different than a coffee shop. Right? At least you get a combo, right? All jokes aside though, you get what I'm saying. You set the expectation and lead with that. Don't be foolish and watch. A lot of people watch a lot of TV and they're not living on ball player budgets. And they get misled, and well, so-and-so is flying off, and so-and-so is doing this, and they start to compare their relationships to others. Well, we're at the 10-year mark, why did this happen at this time? Or we're at the 5-year mark, this should have happened, we missed that milestone. And you're not really living in the relationship, you're living for everyone else outside of that. So be mindful of that, really. Thank you.
With the social media and all that stuff going on today, you take someone to McDonald's, you be on Twitter fast and you can say, how you doing? Sure, you typed that out already. You believe in the guy dating a little girl, you know, we're dating. We're not really boyfriend, girl, we're just dating. I'm in McDonald's in the booth. I'm looking at Big Mac combo. She's right here beside me. I'm like, I have to ask her if she wants something. Want something? Yeah, I'll take quarter pound combo. And I'm like, oh shit. I'll just order a quarter pound combo. That's it? You want it? No, I'm not hungry. I'll eat my combo. And she be sitting across the table from me, eating the fries and the burger. You want some? I'm like this. No, I'm not hungry. Because she's gonna say, why not I buy my own, right? And she has her money from her lunch money, and she saves up for the weekend. I love you, women. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next question. We all know that, how many of us are working right now? How many of us? Show of hands. How many of us are employed, self-employed, working, hustling, making your money? Now, can we, that are hustlers making our money, can we be involved with someone who's laid back? My parents, can we deal with someone who's laid back?
In the audience here today, and I don't know that everyone sitting here today is with someone and you're progressive, they're progressive, and I don't think it's always like that. So who would I be to sit here and say, you know, and give you the advice and say, you're progressive, but your husband at home is not, so get rid of them. It doesn't work that way. And you know, ideally, if you're progressive and you get with someone who's progressive, and that's fantastic, and you're both moving forward progressively, that's amazing. And that's something that we should work towards. But it doesn't always work out that way. We go with ebbs and flows in life. You might have met young and then things happen and then, you know, personality kicks in and this person's laid back and you're super progressive and he's super, you know, you're super hyper go-getter and your other half is more laid back, and you know, that's okay because sometimes it balances out. And also the thing is that is once we are in a relationship and we are trying to help move each other forward. And sometimes it's good because if you have a partner who's not progressive, maybe you're in their life to help them become more progressive, right? And maybe that's the reason why you're in their life. But we, at the end of the day, need to embrace our significant others with their strengths and their weaknesses. And I would never be in a good position to say to you, if you've got a partner today at home and they're not progressive, it's not going to work, and get rid of them. Like, that would never be advice that I could personally give, because it's not. I think it's ideal, sweets, that you know that you're super progressive and your partner is, but it's not always going to be that way.
Now, I'm going to go with the general questions, right? This one, a lady asked, right? Because I like to pull questions from ladies and men. Now, ladies, they asked the men. There are a lot of men in here tonight, right? Yeah. That's it? What's the difference between the men of today and the men of yesterday?
Chivalry is right.
Men, the guillotine is out. The ladies are here. They want to know. What's the difference?
I'm going to say a couple real things. I mean, to be honest, a man of today has less expectations because women are more progressive. They're more willing to step up in a situation and be more independent. And I mean, we've also, as men, you know, not, let's say, and I'm just, once again, generalizing, not speaking about anyone specifically, but in a relationship, you know, where she has to come up with, you know, you're not the only breadwinner, for example. You're not the only one working. You're more laid back, or you're more willing to let her step up. So a man doesn't have to, you know, be so, so outstanding in terms of being caring, compassionate, courteous. There's almost a shortage of men, to be honest. So, a man of today has a lot less, in my opinion, that he has to stand for. And he still can have chances with women or in a relationship. And a man of the past, men have to stand up and one way or another find more solutions because the burden of a relationship or a family was on their shoulders more squarely. So I just say men of today have honestly less that they have to really do and stand up for, and it's a sad thing actually.
Ladies, what do you think the difference is?
Shivery. Shivery.
Hi. I think that the men of today are way more emotional and needy than the men of yesterday. My grandfather was a strong man. He would go out and do his work or whatever, come back home, grandma home, doing the thing. My dad, I never saw that much emotion with him. The men of today, you don't reply to a text. Why you ignoring me? You don't answer the call? Why you ignoring me? You're on the phone when they come to meet you? Oh, now you have time for me? They're way too emotional. Like the men of yesterday were men. The men of today, and I believe the reason for that is because so many men are being raised by women. They're picking up a lot of the sensitivity.
Facebook stuff. Some people say I'm on the business. Then the business about 2 months later turns into social. So it's not about business no more, it's about social. Now if you want to talk to somebody, like I give you my number and you give me yours, I call you, I can't get you, I leave you a voice message. Next thing I know, 5 minutes later, you're texting me back. Well, why didn't you just pick up the phone and call me? Or answer the phone when I called you? Why you gotta text me back? Now, I call you back maybe a half an hour later to see if you're free because you told me maybe you might be free around then. You don't answer the phone. Now you want to text me back about 10 minutes later and you're texting me again. Now you want to have a conversation through text. I don't have time to text. Besides, how can you figure out what a person really means through text? How do you know if they're joking or if they're serious? How do you know if they're sad or if they're mad through text? You can't feel that sense of emotion. You can't feel that sense of emotion through a tone. Because you're not getting a tone, you're getting a text.
I believe if they're laughing, it's LOL. If they're annoyed, it's SMH, right? What else is there?
The happy face, the icons, the emotional.
Icons?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you send me a happy face, you can keep it. I don't need a happy face. Give me a call. Give me a call. Let's get serious. Let's get real. We're big people here. And for big people to come and send me a happy face, that just goes to show you're not on my level. If you're going to send me a text message with a happy face on it, then that shows me that you're not on my level and you're not ready for me.
You know what? This is serious.
Instagram, anything that has to do with the internet or computers. If you want to give me a photo, make arrangements, get together with me, and say, here, here's a picture of myself, I'll let you have this. That's old school. 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 Don't send me a photo on Instagram. I'm coming back. What? You can't wait for me? Hey, listen, if you're thinking about me, give me a call. Listen, you don't need to Instagram. That's when you get caught up. Because you know what? Every so often something new comes up. If it ain't a new app, WhatsApp, all these different apps are coming out. All these different things are coming out. And we just get caught up in that. That's one person says, oh, here. Oh, BBM. Now we got BBM on Android. So now everybody's sending me a BBM.
I think this is very serious in the sense that our society has moved into something huge, and for us we call it social media, but it's actually really taken a lot away from us emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, that we're not even quite yet aware of. We don't know that we're killing each other. We no longer are able to touch. When we have studies was done that showed that the more technology we have, the more distance we are from each other. We're losing our sense of emotion. And the superior God who designed us, He designed us with emotion for us to connect with each other through touch and voice and smell and see, and we're losing that. So, you know, social media is all good, but you can't sleep with social media. You can't share how you're really feeling with social media. This is an invasion of our life. We're turning into robots. So, you know, yes, it's fun, but I prefer to hear my fiance's voice. I prefer to hear his voice. I prefer to hear my children's voice. I don't want to be texting all the time. Yes, it's great, but I don't want that in my life all the time. And it's invading our lives, and we're not taking it seriously. You talk about being men of today are too emotional. I don't think they are. There's some people, you know, there's some people who are needy and some people who are extremely emotional. But that's an extreme. I think that as human beings, it doesn't matter if we're male or female, we should be able to confidently express our emotion to each other on different levels. Okay? How you're feeling, how you're thinking. You should be able to express and not be seen as emotional. What is that?
So, listening to everyone speak and saying what they had to say today, but I do have a couple points I want to stress out and make sure that we get things clear. I do believe that women today is what's making men a lot more different than they are today. It's not the men, it's the woman. You gotta think about it. Because, I am gonna explain myself. Women are being more, what do you say, they are working now, doing their own thing now, and they act like they do not need a man. That is what is going on. When a man is coming to you and he's being emotional to you, it's because he feels he's not needed anymore with you. You make him feel less of a man. That is the problem today. I have no time for this. And another thing I want to point out is, a woman could have a good man right beside them and be so oblivious of what they are doing and go to someone that is doing less and treating him with more respect. That is another reason why the man will have act that way. These are little things that's going through the man's mind while they are with you. A man wants to feel like they are loved. When I come into a household, I like to know that I am the number one person in your life, as I would make you the number one person in my life. Because that's what life is about. Life is getting up every morning and seeing that person beside you and saying, I love you. And every night before you go to bed, I love you even more. It's not about sex. Take the sex out of it. Because at the end of the day, remember this. Remember, I tell you this. At the end of the day, when we are all older and we have to communicate and we can no longer have that sex, what is going to keep you still together? Remember what I say when I say this. When you meet someone today, it's not about the lust and wanting to just get that sex. That's what starts you. But what keeps you is the communication and the longevity and the love for one another through respect, honor, and truth.
I actually really do agree with a lot of what he was saying, but I think that there's a pastor named Miles Monroe, really good. I suggest everyone take him in, but he says something that people respond based on their functions. You know that song by Robin Thicke, Blurred Lines? The lines are so blurred right now, men don't really know what their roles are, women don't really know what their roles are, and that's the problem. You throw a ball up, it's going to fall down, because up and down have a really important relationship. There's principles, and there were principles that God designed within men and women. Unfortunately, over time, they've been broken down. So women are functioning in a way to overcompensate the things that men are no longer doing. That's why you have such hyper strong women, because we're going to do what needs to get done. But because we're so used to doing what men used to do, men don't know where they fit in. 30 years ago, your daddy worked, your mom took care of you, and that's how it was. That was his function. He knew it, he was confident in it. And a man needs respect, and a woman needs love. But if a man doesn't feel respected, it's because maybe his role that he used to do is no longer there. So things have been so distorted, it's like trying to fit a circle into now it's a square, and things no longer fit the way they used to. We have to go back to how things were originally designed for them to work.
Ladies, maybe not all of you. I'm gonna reiterate what I say before I say it. Why do some of you date the same guys over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and then you say there's no more good guys here? Why?
Because they lost that special guy.
Oh wait, you gotta put your hands up. Hold on.
Okay, hands up.
Panelists?
I would never say there's no good men out there, because I know quite a few. But me personally, when it comes to dating the same men, you just have a tendency of attracting yourself to the same type of men. Unfortunately, sometimes they're no good, but no good for you. It may not be no good for someone else, but they may not be they may not just be on the same page as you. And for me personally, I find that I go after the same type of men, and it may not be consciously. I may do it subconsciously. I may not realize I'm doing it, but I realize once I'm in it that it's they're the same type of men, and it's, it happens, but there are good men out there. I would never ever say that there's no good men out there, because I have quite a few friends that are good men. So it's just a matter of finding someone who's for you and opening up your eyes to certain tendencies that you see within the person that you are choosing. Just try to choose something different, something that's more for you.
Natural to say that it's a pattern, obviously. However, that pattern stems from within. The situation is about you. It's about me. It's why do I choose the same person over and over? That's probably because we're not spending enough time with ourselves to find out what my values are, what I like, what I don't like, and then setting standards. Setting standards for yourself, and then putting yourself out there to test those standards that you set for yourself. Because when you decide what you want, who you are, what you want, what your values are, the event will come to test what you say you want. And the guy may come wrapped in a handsome package. He's nice, he's tall, he's dark, he's handsome. If that's one of your top list of priority, then when you take the wrapping off, what are you going to end up with? you have to go deeper beyond that. You really have to know yourself, what you want, and then set your standards and then move beyond that. The other thing we talked about at the last Love Jones was that you have to sit back and also reassess where you are in a situation. And when you go to reassess, always, for me, look at me first. What am I doing? Before we tend to look at the other person. Because if it's what you ask for, then you should be able to see it in that person or see it in yourself before you can actually make sense of it.
I've come to realize, come to see it when I've been on the road, and even from some of my female friends, is that when they come out of a relationship, they don't give themselves a chance to take a break. Take a break. Release the emotions that you have to that particular individual. Then assess yourself to know exactly what I attracted, what I had, to know what I want, to know what you need to go after. They just go from one relationship into another without really having that time to just relax for a minute. And then if something comes along that intrigues them, then go for that or allow that to come to them. But you need a chance to just take a time out. Then you know by what that time out and those emotions that you have, because sometimes you pick up somebody just on the rebound and it's not really good for you because you weren't ready yet. And that becomes a problem, and then next thing you know, that doesn't work out because it was a rebound relationship. And you haven't assessed what you really needed, what you really wanted, what you're looking for. And then you say to yourself, this is not what I want. Take a break. Take time out for yourself. Relax. Spend some time with your friends. Go out. Hang out. Watch a movie. Read a book. Be single. Yeah. Hear some music.
I think another point is, because the question could be taken two ways. Who do we pursue and who do we attract? And I think if what Sweets was saying, why do we attract the same people? Women and men in general, you kind of know who you pursue. You kind of have an agenda. You want a guy who's, A, B, C, D. And but I often believe that what you exude is often what you attract. And if you find that you're attracting, because Sweets was saying, you keep attracting the same guy, and then he keeps disappointing you. Well, two things. One is what you exude is what you will get back. So if you're finding a lot of men that you have to write off because they're negative or whatnot, then you got to look at yourself. Because what is it about what you're exuding that you're attracting the same thing? Because in principle, we're like magnets. Right? And we're walking magnets. And what we give off, we often get back. So I think it comes down to what the panelists are saying here today too, which is you have to really know yourself and know who you are. And if you're finding yourself in a continual cycle of negative relationships, you do have to stop and do an inventory of yourself and know yourself. And try to be authentic to who you are. And when you're authentic and know who you are, you will attract someone who's authentic to who you are as well.
Yes. I think the main part of the problem is honesty. And people don't know how to be honest with each other. When we're young, I don't know that there would be any teenage girl who dreams of dating 20 men in her life. I think the dream is to have one man and have your 6 kids or your dozen kids and live on a farm and be happy for the rest of your life. But the reality is when you start dating, the dishonesty causes you to have to leave relationships and try to find yet another one. And if people could be honest in their relationship, then there would be a reason to date again and again and again. And it's not that you want to date the same kind of people. The main reasons why relationships break up, it's either because of cheating, finances, or some kind of abuse. So if you don't have those problems, then there's no reason to leave a relationship. So then you wouldn't have any reason to date again and again. So people need to be honest. If a man feels like he needs to be with more than one woman, when you meet the woman and you're in a date, you're telling her, I need to have 2 women in my life all the time. And if she can accept that, then she accepts it. If she can't, then she go her way and she don't start a relationship with you. If the woman feels like she needs to have more than one man in her life, then she tells the man, this is me, I have to have more than one man in my life. Don't lie to the person that you're going to be with, which causes the person to believe you're going to be exclusive to them and then break up the relationship and then you have to start over again. The same when it comes to finances. Don't think that you have more than what you really have and then you meet someone, you take them out, you try to impress them, then later on they realize that you really don't have what you started or pretending that you have. Then they're going to leave and they're going to go look again, another person lied to them again, and it's the same thing. It all comes down to honesty. The same thing with abuse. If someone abuses you, it's not that you're going to go into another relationship with an abuser. It just happens that the next person might abuse you again, but you're not going to say you're going to leave. So if people could fix those problems, then there wouldn't be any reason to date again and again. You would just stay with the wrong one person.
Thank you. Why do men always try and get it right after the situation is irreversible? She's halfway out the door and now we decide to get it right. Why? Why do men do that?
By observation as opposed to experience, but they'll be real. I think a lot of men, their girlfriend, etc., for granted. So she might say something like, hey, I'm not happy with this or that, or you gotta take your life seriously. And you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. A lot of men talk big, and our women actually, especially in the Black community, they support us. They support our dreams, they support our visions. But as a result, you're talking big that one day, you want your children to all go to university, you want to be a doctor, but things are rough, so I'm just doing 1s and 2s until, A, B, and C. And then she believes that, and she's going to be supportive. But at the end of it all, you're not following your path that you said that you want to, and she might have too much of that. And it's sadly, people just realize too late, and it's a guy thing, sadly. It's inherent, I see it everywhere. So yeah, they just realize too late.
I think men get comfortable. After a while, we just get used to the same routine, I guess, and we become so comfortable that no matter what changes around us, whether it's having kids or changing careers or something like that, whatever type of support our spouses need, we don't necessarily jump on that right away. So personally, from my experience, that's something I learned a great deal from, because I got comfortable, and looking back, obviously I've had time, and looking at that now, it's you always have to change with the times. I don't care what kind of personality you have, or people do change. You change if you want to change. But let's say your spouse is telling you, okay, you gotta, pick it up now. We have 2 kids or 3 kids. You gotta go. Whatever the reason is that she's pretty much out the door, and then now you're gonna start analyzing your actions, thinking, you know what? It doesn't make sense here. It's not going to make sense with anybody else, any other spouse or whatever. So I better change. And the idea here is that once it gets to that level, you probably, better speak to somebody. Just because somebody on the outside looking at your situation is going to have a neutral advice, not necessarily I know her or I know you, that kind of thing. It's going to be very neutral, and then you can dig out, you can even seek professional advice. I'm not going to get to that point where she's pretty much packed up and leaving with your kids, let's say. So that's my experience.
Thank you. No more to say anything?
Change the standards in which we apply when teaching others how to treat us as a reflection of how we treat ourselves. Lack of communication, support, and respect is what dissolves partnerships. Neutrality Neutrality and balance is what helps determine whether we are willing to make compromises to achieve parallel efforts in obtaining goals that are integral to the mutual endeavors which should have been the connecting factors in the union of those two individuals. When we invert effort into our self-improvement, we extract the same optimism of our potential to those around us. If our focus is on perfecting others, we lose track of how to improve ourselves, and at times that's why the person you want most doesn't want you until you stop wanting them. Growth is the most important aspect of every relationship, including the relationship between body and soul.
Why do women misuse that word, independence?
It's done.
Hey, I asked my question. She says she's independent, but she keeps depending on me. Why do women misuse that word independence? Down?
Miss Independent, that's why I love her.
Okay, we start with the audience.
Well, I don't know if women misusing the word or if men misunderstanding the word independence. Because you can be independent, right? But you're dependent on a man for many other things. I'm dependent on a man for nothing but companionship, right? You gotta be secure in yourself as a man to understand that. Simple.
How many independent women are in the audience? Independent. Oh, raise your hands again, please.
And actually, for all those ladies that raise your hand, there's some people ask this, in a relationship, they feel whole or they don't need a man to make themselves feel whole. Now, I believe, and maybe why men have an issue is that to have a companion, it takes two. So to have a pair, there's like two halves of a pair, two parts to that. You're a whole person, there's no disputing that. You're an independent woman, but in a relationship, you're dependent on the other. So what is important, I think, for women not to do is to abuse the word independence in a relationship. So you gotta clarify how you use it. There's nothing wrong to say, I'm a woman, hear me roar, and a lot of women do that these days. You say, hey, you go girl, you want to work more? Work more. You want to pay the bills? Pay the bills. Men are actually more happy these days because of the women. It's a fact. It's real. But what's so important that we do is to just have the proper boundaries around your independence and just, slow down in the relationship and just enjoy each other in the companionship area, nothing but. That's all I'm talking about.
I agree with this lady here. Exactly. Naki, I agree with what she was saying. I think people misunderstand the word. You can be independent, but I think that most women have like a natural biological urge to feel protected, to feel safe. That's not about money. That's about comfort. It's a biological urge. In my opinion, real men have the biological urge to take care of a woman. But if you're saying, okay, you're Miss Independent, so pay your own bills, I'm not going to pay for your dinner, this and that, like that's not going to touch my biological urge to want to be with you, right? So just like what you were saying, there's being independent and then even being submissive in a relationship. Not submissive in being a doormat. It's all semantics. We take these words and we attach these like negative connotations to them and then we run with them. We have to really understand what we're talking about, what we're dealing with, right? So,
I was gonna drop a song that I hear myself. No, on the real though, when you're in a relationship and sit on a serious tip, there's a lot to your relationship than just the companionship. There is also, because you're trying to build. And if you're gonna come in here and say that we live in an apartment today and we're trying to get a house, and you're independent, you're not. You need each other. So you're dependent on each other to get from A to get to B. So don't tell me nothing and just start sighing and making a noise that you're not independent. Everybody's dependent on somebody to get somewhere in order to go up and move up. If you want a family, you have two people. Now you got children. Now you want a house. You're telling me, and you got cars. Are you telling me that you're not dependent on each other? Are you telling me that a woman doesn't need a man as much as a man needs a woman? It's companionship. It's independence. It's a partnership. It's a team. It's an effort. Let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you something right now before I get on the mic. The letter I is not in team. The letter I is not in partner. The letter I is not in we. The letter I is only in I. And if you're saying you're independent because that's the word it's in, then you're not going to make it within that relationship. So when you start using independent, that means you're not for the team. It means you're for yourself. Come on for that ride. Come on for that ride. And start talking about us. Because there's no I in us either. So say us. What are we going to do? How are we going to get here? And say, how are we going to make it? Because that's what it comes down to.
Question is, why women misuse independence? I'm going to tell you this straight. I like a woman that is independent. Straight. Every woman and every man should be independent. You understand? I'm independent, good, I make money. You independent, good, I make money. We together, more money. And we have to do our future. The thing is this, if you're in a relationship, a woman says, I'm independent, so I don't need you. Then it's different, because being independent doesn't mean you have respect for your spouse. Understand? Some women say, I'm independent, you can't tell me what time to come in, and you can't tell me what to do, and you can't tell me what to do. Well, that's different, because you know what now? I'm independent too, so you can't tell me nothing. So you can't tell me nothing, me can't tell me nothing, then we have a relationship. Understand what is the case? So it's a man too, independent, you want to make less money, you want to make more money. Oh, independent on my girl, because you can't talk to me. Can't work. In a relationship, we have to compromise and talk to each other and respect each other and go on. And that's when we have the offspring, you can go work and say, oh, mommy is a liar, that is a taxi man, that they don't have the money, but mommy have the money, but yet still, mommy respect Ali and we have a relationship. And it's vice versa. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know one way because there's some man that make a lot of money and the woman stay home and because she home and be her respect. Only independent, we don't need them. But she don't want my kids, and you have a girl on the road. It's not about respect and communication, and independence is good in every relationship. Understand? I study things about. I study that. We're going to treat out one girl as something in itself.
It's done.
Listen, I'm a Jamaican. Straight up, show them all Jamaicans in the house. Respect everybody else in their turn, because it's a beautiful country. Just like it's one song for a country. I don't know what's going on now with people have been drinking, other people have been thinking. I'm from a different society where it's not like this. So, wow, woman is saying, man, you're talking about nothing and all these things. We understand what's going on. What I'm saying is it's basic, it's simple, and everybody should know this. Respect, start from the house or grow. Simple. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Know what you want to be in a relationship. If you want to use someone, tell them and say you want to use more, use it. If you want that, fine. If you want to use a woman, I say no, because guess what? People have feelings. And people will hurt you and you hurt people. Feelings is a thing that we think of and hate, but we have to know what we have to do in terms of we are corresponding with other people. It's so easy. You don't know when I'm going back home, how much hurting get, and you put in all of this. And you can break in pain you really want it, and you just stop. Vice versa. You understand? Because I know one-way thing and two-way thing. As a two, one-on-one. You understand what I'm saying? It's a certain thing.
Why is honesty that we say in relationships perceived as negativity. They ask for your opinion, but when they give it, it comes off as being negative.
Because, you know, when you ask someone to be honest, you ask for yourself to be vulnerable. So when you say, please be honest, number one means you have to A, be ready to face the truth. And then number two, when you ask, you know, I want you to be honest, that means you have to come to a place of vulnerability. And, you know, for some people, being vulnerable is a tough place to be in. And being able to accept the truth is a tough place to be in. But I'm not sure, I mean, when that question was posed to you, Sweets, what was the context of it? That people fear that, or?
I mean, they want you to be honest in a relationship, but if you tell them something that they don't want to hear, it's perceived as being negative.
Yeah, and that's human nature, because in human nature, we always, you know, tell me the truth, but then the truth hurts, right? So, I mean, that's human nature. You want to hear the truth, but it's hard to absorb it.
It's important when you're actually being honest that you also position it with options. So it might be, I don't like the way you wear this, but this looks great on you. Give, like, you know, if you give it too cold, you're gonna get a force. It's gonna backfire, and it's gonna come off as negative because it's not considered constructive. It's much more. There's no tact, and it seems like you're almost being vindictive, and it's in other issues, and you're just not being candid about it. So it's just how you position things, and just in human nature, we like to be led through that. Walk me through the process. When I said to be honest, am I fat? Am I putting on weight? How do you say it? How do you say it? Just like that, you're fat. I hear you. No. It's not like there's certain things that you know. If somebody's struggling with their weight or something that they're struggling with, it's a hard thing to kind of sometimes force it, because you know that if you know your partner, you have to know how to deliver the information. Even though they say they want the honest side, you have to know how to soften it.
A simple way to talk about, you know, the situation, you say how you feel about that. Let's say it's a certain something that your spouse doesn't do, or your spouse does that annoys you. You can say, when you do this, this is how I feel. So then it'd be up to them to say, well, I'm not going to do it again because I don't want you to feel bad, or I'm, you know, it's, leave it to them. Just share with them what you know for sure, because that's how you feel. Rather than tell them to change, or tell them that, you know, it's just a different way to share with them your concern. So later on they'll look and say, well, I'm not going to do it because this is how they feel, and I know that it's not coming at me as attacking me or trying to get me to change into something. So
thank you. How do you feel about your partner when they're not around you? Lloyd? How do you feel, Louis?
Feel great.
You feel they're not wrong?
So, you're asking me if when they're not around, how do you feel? You should feel complete, regardless. You should know that you need to know yourself. That's where it starts from. If you feel imbalanced because somebody's not there for 8 hours or 7, whatever, 12 hours, then you have a problem. That means you can't cope without them. That is a different form of this.
Is that the context of the question?
No, how do you make you feel? Like, do you miss them? Do you can't wait to see them? How do you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel? When,
person, I do. But we're in touch. You know, we check in. Like, what do you mean? How do you feel? Like, I'm a total woman. I'm happy being alone, as well as I'm happy being with someone. And if the person isn't around, I'm not saying I sit there. When is he coming home? No. But of course, and so you reflect on the person so often throughout the day, because they're special to you. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. Absolutely nothing.
Yvette. Tony.
Well, my partner is not in the country, so when I don't get to see him, I miss him a lot.
See, honesty.
And Sweets, I think just to keep things objective too, you can be complete and miss someone, but with the reality of your relationship and the situation. So, as my sister here, you might not be able to be physically there together, but and thus you being separate, or you might have to work, etc., etc. But if you had the opportunity, you might want to be together. So that longing doesn't mean that there is a level of inadequacy necessarily, but it's with the dynamics of your relationship.
Thank you. He's going on the road. We're taking on the road now, so another city wants us to do the same thing we're doing here. We're going to show them what we're made of. Where? Right? Pardon me? Where? Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you very much. My name is Sweets, your host. And if I don't have information, make sure that you email me, sweets@lovejonestherapy.com. I wanna give Horace Colin Pless a round of applause for letting us use this establishment. That's I love you guys who came out to support me. I really appreciate it.